Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We have another panel here that I'm so excited to moderate. I know it's in the late afternoon on Saturday, but thank you all so much for coming to Consensus. I'm Tracy Wang. I am a senior reporter here at CoinDesk. And I'm going to, this panel is going to be about what's next in NFT's wide open future. And we're going to be focusing more on the enterprise side, just because we have three lovely panelists. And I will let them introduce themselves. Why don't we go Zach, Raakhee, and Shashi down the line. A little bit about yourself and kind of your firm and what it does in the NFT space.
Cool. I'm Zach Bruch. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Recur. We build NFT infrastructure for some of the world's largest Hollywood studios, brands, IPs in the world. We've been public about our relationship with Paramount and their entire library. So Star Trek, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, Showtime, and so many others will be coming to market soon. Sanrio's Hello Kitty, Care Bears, nearly every college in America, and a slew of others yet to be announced. But we're also opening up all of our infrastructures and our APIs to enable creators of all sizes to have the same enterprise-grade infrastructure solution going forward.
Hi, I'm Raakhee Miller, CEO of Mojito. We're a Web3 infrastructure platform, and we work with, I feel like I'm just repeating whatever you just said, but we work with a lot of iconic brands around building commerce infrastructure, as well as onboarding, on-ramping infrastructure. So we power Sotheby's Metaverse, we work with CAA and a lot of their talent, and our focus is in entertainment, sports. I'd like to say that we're really focused on the Web 2.5 space. So we are building technology through our APIs exposed to enterprises that want to move their Web 2 user base into Web 3.
I'm Shashi Menon. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of UNXD, and we're bringing luxury to the metaverse. Unlike Zach and Raakhee, I would say that we describe ourselves as a culture company that is enabled by technology and not a technology company. Our background comes from the intersection of luxury and crypto. We've been in the crypto space since 2015, but in 2012, we launched Condé Nast's first media company or publication in the Middle East. And then in 2016, we also launched Vogue in the Middle East and have been scaling that for the last 5-6 years. So we got started in the NFT space last spring, and then last summer launched Dolce & Gabbana's first collection, which was a 9-piece couture collection that was collected by some of the biggest collectors in the world. And now we're fortunate to work with some of the world's greatest designers to bring their creativity on-chain.
All right. Thank you so much for the introductions. And I think it's great that we have a diversity of perspectives in terms of the different industries. But the first question is relatively straightforward. NFTs have really blown up in the past year, and now these real brands are interested. So, when you're approaching them, what's the pitch in terms of getting them involved in NFTs? Do they see this as a way to connect with Gen Zers? Do they see this as kind of, free money licensing deals? What's the appeal of NFTs to them? I guess we'll start with Zach and then move to...
All right, so I guess we're going down the line. So it's been a really interesting experience. So just for a bit more context and color, I've been in the crypto space for a long time and was on the institutional trading side. So 5 years ago, I was at Kraken, helped build the trading desk there, then was at DRW in Cumberland, and was over there. And comparing how institutions got involved back then to now with NFTs has been drastically different. And what we're seeing is a lot of institutions now and enterprises are looking at NFTs really as a tool for community and recognizing that the customer base and audience and fan that's participating is even more bought in when there's potentially NFTs involved, and the community that can be cultivated is even stronger. So what we've been seeing is at the start, there was a ton of education that we had to do, and at the beginning, it was more about collectibles. But what we're starting to see now is a lot of these large brands and IP creators, athletes, I mean, you name it, are now thinking about how they can leverage the NFT as a tool for community and grow beyond that, and loyalty programs. So we're also seeing people starting to leverage our APIs for CRM, for loyalty programs, and the like. So we're going to see, we feel, a strong evolution, and it will go a lot beyond just collectibles and heavily more into loyalty. But I think they bought into this concept of community and are recognizing that community drives everything, and it has historically throughout the history of the internet. I mean, 1990s, we were on internet bulletin boards, to AOL chat rooms, to Reddit, which was indexing communities, to Discord, where people are speaking, and now NFTs, where it's really participatory. So they get that, and it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think what started off in 2021 with the explosion of NFTs. I feel like we all heard about NFTs for so many years, CryptoKitties and all, and then suddenly it was everywhere. And just in the last 16 to 18 months, so many brands have come into this. What we see when we talk to our customers is there's obviously an aspect of monetizing. It's a new monetization pathway to IP that they own and exist. They are seeing some of that monetization going away from their platform. So there's definitely a defensive mechanism of keeping it on platform. But I think the days of putting something out there and just relying on the speculative value is gone. And it is about community and engagement. There are new ways to engage the community as well. There's new innovations going on in NFTs all the time. One of the projects we recently did with the Milwaukee Bucks, for example, for their playoffs, they did a drop of 250 NFTs for their most engaged fans, and were able to, for the first time, get 250 of their users that had never even heard of Web3, have never downloaded a MetaMask, to go claim these NFT tickets and use them as proof of a ticket and gain entry into the area called Deer District around the stadium. And they got VIP perks and free merch. We've recently launched something with Lyrical Lemonade. They're a high-profile Gen Z brand with about 15 million followers on YouTube that are throwing a Summer Smash event in Chicago. And it's all about NFT like merch and token-gated access to merch. So I think the use case for us that we're seeing is token-gated and the ability to add more value to the brand by staying loyal and exclusive to the brand, and in a way kind of creating this flywheel of co-creation. That's, I think, something that the consumers more and more getting, but then the brands are getting as well. Another example is with a company that makes sneakers, which I can't name right now, that we're speaking with. It's about retaining a lot of the secondary market that goes on after your primaries are dropped, right? So now, instead of knowing that, he bought one of my shoes, great, but he might have gone to StockX and sold it to, him and the third person and the fourth person, and you lose all of that data. So, we think that the use case of NFTs, which is really at the forefront a digital ownership, it's immutable, exactly, the full audit trail of ownership is so powerful that we think that financial institutions are also going to get into the game. Swaps contracts could be NFTs, right? They could be a contract that is irrefutable, designating a contract between two people. So there's a lot of very interesting, even non-art and entertainment related use cases that we're seeing come our way, and it's just the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's actually a combination of everything that both Zach and Raakhee was saying. I think we see, on one hand, brands looking at it as a marketing vehicle, on another hand, community development, and definitely as monetization. I think the ones that are most clever in the space are trying to actually align all of those three things at the same time, and that's what will help to make it a little bit more of a sustainable model, especially when you think about why consumers might be interested in NFTs. And for consumers, I think it's a lot of different things as well. I think it's impossible to ignore the financial speculation aspect of it, even if that's not necessarily the primary reason why someone would get into the space. And so it's really incumbent on brands to have this very long-term strategy around what it means to be in the space in order for it to be useful. And I think the brands that have been successful so far are entering the space with the idea that there's something around what they're doing in the NFT space that's really authentic and linked to everything that the brand has stood for. but also that it's not just a single-time entrance or just a marketing project, because then for the consumers that participate in it, if it's something that they pay for, it's a really, I think, not particularly good experience. For the brands that we're working with, I think they're not first and foremost looking at it as a revenue generation tool, but it definitely helps. I think the thing that got these brands excited about the space, at least from a designer perspective, was the idea that they could create digitally in a way that they're not able to create physically, but also kind of connect everything that they stand for in the physical world with the digital world and vice versa.
Thank you. You know, there's just a lot of projects in NFTs, and getting big name partnerships is definitely a very high profile, and it's a great boost to the project. And I'm wondering if the three of you guys can pick like one specific deal. It can be Dolce & Gabbana for you, and Paramount, and the Milwaukee Bucks. But walk us through what that deal looked like. How did you convince them to take the leap and jump into these new waters, so to speak? Why don't we go this way now? So start with Sashi.
Flipping it around. So we had this crystallizing moment last spring, and I think like a lot of people, we completely missed the initial boat around NFTs. When they first started in 2017 with CryptoKitties, we just saw it as a huge fad. But there was this crystallizing moment that we had last spring where we felt that we finally developed a point of view around NFTs that was somehow linked to something that we understood. And that moment was us realizing that, to us at least, NFTs felt like a product of culture rather than a product of technology. And we felt that everything that we'd been doing as a company with Vogue and with the other publications that we create was about creating these little moments of culture. So we went out and we started talking to the brands that we work with, which are a lot of different luxury brands, and also recognized when doing that fashion as a broad category and luxury as a subsegment of that category typically hasn't been early adopters of technology for a lot of good reasons. And one of the reasons is that these brands have long felt that everything that their business is based on is around physical artistry and physical craftsmanship. And in going into the digital world, they kind of risk losing that element of what's made them special for so long. So we started talking to different brands, and Dolce & Gabbana was one of the first companies that we talked to. We'd actually been working with them for about a decade before, so knew the family personally and had actually developed some trust with them before. But literally the first thing that we told them was, if you take nothing away from this technology or from this conversation, just take this, that NFTs are about culture, not about technology. And that was really about disarming the fear around coming into the crypto space, because we knew if we had this conversation with them about crypto or blockchain or NFTs, that it would just go over their head entirely. So that kind of helped take the teeth out of the fear of entering the space, and then it became a conversation about creativity. And the designers themselves, Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana, just see themselves as artists. And so that was the appeal to them, was that we would be able to take away the physical constraints around creation and allow them to create without limitation. And for an artist, that's a really freeing idea, that you can just create without having any of these constraints. But at the same time, we also knew that for this to be a project that would have legs long term, it had to be something that they were committed to getting into. So the second part of the conversation was, if you want to go down this path with us, you have to commit to two things. One is both internally and publicly to convey that you're in it, whether or not this works. And that, I think, was a very important declaration that the brand needed to make, that even if the first project that we did was a complete catastrophe, that they were willing to experiment in public and go down this path. And I think that helped the consumers that we ended up engaging with understand that the brand was in it for the right reasons. And the second part was really leaning into creating this authentic bridge between everything that the brand stood for in the real world and what we wanted to do in the digital world. And the commitment that we had them make was that we actually had to attach physical product to what we created. So the collection that we created ended up including 5 bespoke items that cost millions of dollars to create, but the brand was committed to doing that ahead of the launch. And that also, I think, demonstrated that they were in it for the right reasons and that they actually understood how to bridge this connection.
So I think I'll maybe pick out, since I talked about the Milwaukee Bucks already, maybe I'll pick on the project we did with the Liverpool Football Club. They're an iconic brand. I think even if you don't follow soccer, most people have heard of Liverpool. This is a project we worked on with Sotheby's, and the whole process was fascinating. So you're walking into an enterprise, and it is nothing. There's zero knowledge and zero expectation of anyone knowing anything about what's to come. So there's the creative process, as you mentioned, and getting that. We ran an auction for them for one of all of their 23 players and the coach. As well as a PFP sort of project where the theme was superheroes, and there were different traits for all of their players. And there's just so much love in this community for the game and for these players. We saw the Discords and all the community stuff just blowing up right before. We did very, very little marketing in the traditional sense, and so it was just fascinating to see how much volume came through just through this aspect of people now expecting to own something iconic that they love so much about this team, and the word of mouth effect of that was fascinating. So I think the creative process there is different than any other typical campaign that most people are running. So that's a learning experience for I think enterprises. Then dealing with crypto, who's going to hold the crypto? Who's going to take the payment? Who's going to hold the keys? So it's a lot of that conversation, and you're dealing with lawyers and compliance folks who, bless them, are great. But dealing with compliance folks can take a few years away from your life, I think. And then dealing terms and conditions on the website. I honestly cannot. It's like gives me PTSD thinking about those conversations. But everything. Where's the IP going to live? How's the what can they do with it? So there's all these questions that come up, I think, in the practical sense to put a sale live. So it was a great learning experience for the entire team, including Liverpool, including in some instances some part of Sotheby's. And then after that, we had to provide utility, for the community. So we're going to be doing another drop. There's going to be some snapshotting stuff that we're doing as well. And it was just I think a really interesting experiment also to see on the commerce side. The one of one sold for $75 a pop. And the highest bid on I think it was Salah went for 86K. Yeah, so the floor of that versus what went out. There's just a lot of excitement on this, and I think that it was worth the effort, and we're looking to do something else there down with them as well.
So we go through similar battle stories, I guess, dealing with large enterprises. But everything that we've always done from the lens of how are we solving problems for really creators of all sizes? So Recur was founded February 22nd of 2021. And the week before that, I actually had experimented with NFTs and done a drop with an artist called Fuocious and 2 Feet, a musician. We did the drop on Nifty Gateway, and we learned a lot, because one of the things that we learned was you really couldn't control your narrative, your storytelling. At the end of the day, NFTs is really all about culture. You're completely correct. Community. And you have some of the most incredible artists in the world that should be able to tell the story the way they want to. And we felt at Recur that meant the story needed to originate in one place. It can go and leave and cultivate and grow elsewhere. And a user should be able to take their NFT wherever they want, because that's true ownership. But if you can control and create the place where it originates and can tell your story the way you want to, that can be really compelling. So February 22nd, we started Recur a week after all sorts of different learnings from that drop, but also throughout doing different things within the industry and understanding that we can abstract away lots of challenges within the ecosystem, like payments and compliance and things like that. But then the sales cycle begins and the education begins. Because I would say a few weeks after starting the business, we started contacting and getting in touch with all these large Hollywood studios, brands, and enterprises. And then it's like 6 months later, or 9 months later, or even a year plus later, are these deals really closing? Because there is a significant education process, but also there's a commitment process. You want to make sure the other side is truly committed, They have resources there that are going to go and help grow the ecosystem and going to continue to tell that story because NFTs continue to live. It's not like you're doing a one-off drop and running away, at least with folks that are leveraging our infrastructure. It's really a tool for storytelling. So for us, when we're dealing with different enterprises in which we are helping them create on the creative side, we want to make sure that it really can be 365, it can be always on, it can be engaging, and we had to walk them through all sorts of different things to show that crypto really isn't that scary, and it really can be this incredible tool. But what we found was that a lot of these folks were already excited about the space and eager to get involved. They just needed to learn a bit more because there was so much noise really throughout the entire industry because things were trading at all sorts of different levels and all sorts of craziness. So people really were excited. But at the end of the day, it came down to how can we make sure we are doing the best storytelling possible for our audience, for our fans, and ultimately that end user, that end consumer of this product. And it's a ton of education, but it's been a really great process.
I'm wondering if these brands, they think of the token prices or the broader crypto market as noise. I know we're in a bear market, and I'm wondering if NFTs and what projects they decide to undertake are kind of divorced from the price of Ethereum or Solana, or do you feel like now conversations, they're more hesitant?
Not really. I think the brands that are in it for the right reasons right now, and I think that if you're in this space, it's a belief that Web3 is going to happen, that we are going to be in an environment where there's going to be decentralized internet, where crypto is going to be the new money, where social tokens will be the new loyalty, NFTs will be the new ownership. So you have to start from that place of belief, and then basically figure out how do I get there. And I think the brands that are getting in are less worried about the volatile nature of where ETH is at or where Bitcoin's at. Obviously, I think it's harder to hire, I think, for companies in those environments. So companies like ours and people that are young, they're like, I don't know, I'm going to join you guys. Will you still be in business? So there's that aspect of when we go out for recruiting. There's always that I think the noise really affects that. But the brands that are in it for the right reasons, I think they see this as the future. I think I would argue all of us are doing this because we see this as a future. So not so much. I think at least we've not seen this kind of let's pause this project and do it later type of thing.
Our brands that we work with are committed to work with us for 5+ years, some of them. So they are really looking long term and thinking about how are they cultivating a really strong community, how are they doing really fantastic storytelling, how are they working with the best creators in the world and engaging an incredible fan base and audience. Never are they asking us about crypto prices and things like that. So at this stage, they've done a ton of education, and it's really more than speculation for them. And they see NFTs really as this incredible tool and a next level, a next wave of storytelling. And that's just the brands that we're talking about now, but there are other enterprises out there that want to leverage NFT technology in all sorts of different ways. I mean, you touched on different ones, but also like loyalty and CRM is another next phase of it, as we see people are leveraging our infrastructure for.
Yeah, I think I agree. One of the great things I think about the different types of organizations that collectively we're working with is that they've all been around for a long time, which serves as this incredible forcing function to make us think long term in how we work with them. And none of them are really in it for short-term profit, even if some of them have managed to make a lot of money in a short period of time. So I think that actually ends up being really helpful. We don't get the question that much about the price of crypto, except maybe from finance teams who are a little bit curious about how to deal with it. But overall, I think with a downturn, it actually helps some of the organizations that we're working with, because it allows us to tie what we're doing closer to real utility and real value and take it away from just being a speculation around a financial product. So we're really excited about that. I think one of our big beliefs as an organization is that we see ourselves as digital maximalists, but not digital absolutists. So much of what we're trying to do is bring the real world into crypto, but also to bring crypto back to the real world. I think personally, one of our biggest takeaways from the pandemic was just about the magic of the real world. So much of what we're doing is tying physical product and physical experience to the different NFTs that we're creating with these brands, and I think that will actually help drive more adoption of the space overall. And across, I think, the three of us, the types of organizations that we're working with also will really help the space, because the mainstreaming of Web3 is one of the things that will help the space grow. And as Raakhee was mentioning, it really is a self-reinforcing cycle.
And I think this is going to be the last question that we have time for, but just curious to hear what you guys will think will be next for NFTs. You know, it's crazy to reflect on the past year, and I think around this time last year is when the Bored Apes just started minting, and it's been a hell of a year in NFTs. And so just in the next 1 to 2 years, what are some of the most exciting new applications that we're going to see? And we'll just go down the line to end.
So for me, rather than speculating on what the next application is, I think that now we're reaching a point where the infrastructure, the technology, the platforms are going to become way more accessible. It has been really challenging for people to participate and get involved. You have to know about crypto and setting up a crypto wallet and doing different types of things. And soon and now it's going to start becoming easier for creators of all sizes to get involved, for audiences of all different types to get involved, not necessarily have crypto backgrounds, be able to use credit card and Apple Pay and Google Pay and crypto, of course, too. So what I'm most excited for is seeing, we've seen such incredible creators and incredible minds, too, built on the tech side within this ecosystem. But as the tools become more, widely available to all sorts of different types of folks and easier to work with, I think what we are going to see is a complete explosion of growth across the board, as well as innovation. So I'm not going to speculate on what that innovation might be, but I think we'll start seeing a lot more innovation because the tooling is going to become way more accessible.
So there's some interesting use cases that we're working on at Mojito. I think, we hope this is the next wave. So one of them is decentralized identity. So our prediction is that, as adoption grows, as more people become holders and become participants in Web3, identifying yourself, a decentralized version of yourself, is going to become a thing. And there's going to be not so much of authenticating yourselves over and over and over again. There's going to be this aspect of your identity that is decentralized and lives on Web3, and that's you. It could still be pseudo-anonymous, etc. I think that's one of our bets. The other one is putting private information on the public blockchain. We think that is a gap right now, and that prevents a lot of really interesting use cases for NFT as a tech and this idea of undeniable ownership. But putting a lot of information on the public blockchain can be scary and it can be hard. And I know there's a lot of interesting ZK stuff going on, but we're working on an interesting take on putting even your social security on chain. So if you can imagine that world exists, like what can happen after that? What would banks do? What would financial institutions do? And then the third, I think you touched on as well, is just CRM, right? Like when people move more and more commerce moves to Web3, I think CRM looks completely different because you know so much more about the wallets you're interacting with and who else they interacted with and all of the what else they've been participating in. And in a way it sounds a little scary, but also not. Anyway, all our information's out there. There's going to be new ways of gathering insights and creating more curated experiences, curated products. So that part of the innovation is going to be, I think, even much bigger. So if big data's got a lot of challenges now, I think it'll be very interesting to see how that will explode with all of this additional information.
I think I would agree with a lot of what both Zach and Raakhee were saying. I think we'll see barriers to entry and barriers to adoption come down. On the entrance side, it's really about making tooling a little bit easier for most average consumers. I think the idea of setting up a MetaMask or a crypto wallet is prohibitive enough to have them not enter. The idea of buying crypto and fluctuation of that is also a big hindrance. So I think the more that this kind of fades into the background where it's easy to onboard yourself, that will make it better. And then from an adoption perspective, I think this is where brands and creators attaching utility to what they're creating will make this seem less like just a one-time jump and more of a long-term reason why consumers should be in the space. I think for us as an organization, the trend that one of the trends that we're betting on most is attaching culture and identity to how people see themselves in the metaverse. I think this is where fashion is so exciting to us because we've been around fashion for so long and seeing how in the real world it's so central to how people see themselves. And we think in the metaverse that's going to be even more pronounced. We're super early in what that curve looks like. The metaverse experience for most consumers is really shitty today, and I think over the next 2-3 years you'll start to see platforms that are a little bit more fun to be on, and this is where I think aligning all of these things gets us really excited.
I have a question for you. Did you get any Dolce & Gabbana stuff for working with them?
We buy some stuff from them. I actually wouldn't really consider myself a luxury consumer. I'm like an insider in luxury, but I wear the most generic monochrome black all the time, and I shop at Zara. So I don't know that I'm really the prototypical luxury consumer, but I do enjoy it for what it is.
All right. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us this afternoon, and let's give our speakers a big round of applause.